Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Byron Scott. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, a two-alarm apartment fire in Lanham leaves dozens of people scrambling for a place to stay. This was the scene this morning as dozens of firefighters and trucks were called to the Bethesda apartments in Lanham. Investigators say the fire broke out at 5644 Whitfield Chapel Road and spread to another apartment. A person in the unit where the fire began was rescued by firefighters and received minor injuries. More than a dozen homes were also damaged by smoke and water. Officials are not allowing those residents back in.
It was a devastating situation. My mom was still very shaken from the incident because she was in the room and the fire was, the smoke was like really heavy when she was in the room. So, but I think she's okay and everybody's okay, so we're good.
I went back in the building, and when I went back in the building, I seen the guy in the wheelchair and just helped him out the building into an ambulance.
I got a phone call from my sisters that my building is on fire and it's affected my apartment. But when I got here, although the building is burned, but I thank God no life is lost.
Well, the Red Cross is helping the residents find accommodations. Investigators say the cause appears to be electrical. Well, 8 Democrats are vying for the opportunity to challenge Maryland's Governor Larry Hogan, but first they have to distinguish themselves before voters in a June primary election. The candidates began that process today at a forum in Bethesda. Bruce DePoit has more.
The Committee for Montgomery Legislative Breakfast is an annual event that brings together hundreds of business, political, and civic leaders. All 8 of the Democrats running for governor in Maryland accepted the invitation to attend today's forum. Here's what they had to say on one crucial issue: transportation.
We need to be forward-thinking and actually embrace transportation solutions for this century. Bus rapid transit, as is planned coming down 29. Ensuring that we fund the metro fully. Making sure that we're on the cutting edge when it comes to the latest ways to get transportation connected to folks.
Right now, you've got a governor who is the self-proclaimed king of highways. He's against mass transit. He killed the Red Line in Baltimore. He watered down the Purple Line, so now it's the Lavender Line.
Are we really going to double deck the Beltway through Montgomery County? Holy Cross Hospital, how is that going to fit right there as you do that curve? We all drive the Beltway. Where do you fit 4 lanes? It's an example of the type of executive overreach of the Hogan administration and an example of how little he knows our community.
We need to giddy up. And we need to really recommit ourselves to mass transit. But let me make a final point. There was a really insidious aspect of this plan of Larry Hogan's, which was these Lexus lanes. You know, the tolls to actually take these lanes would be $20 or more.
We need a statewide plan for mass transit and public transportation. We don't have one, and as a result, when there are improvements, as occasionally there are, they're scattered, they're isolated, and you have roads to nowhere.
I'm not against us increasing the number of roads we have, but we have to think about the fact that we have Department of Transportation here saying that expanding the roads is at best a 2 to 4 year solution. And in the short term, what's going to result is an increased time because of the construction of it. So for me, it's about thinking about what multimodal transportation systems we can employ.
We need to invest in the metro in the Washington region. We need to invest in the Baltimore region. And the reason we need to do that, that gives us the greatest opportunity to grow our business here and get more money into our coffers so we can deal with the other issues. But then we're going to have to talk about what we're willing to give up. What are you willing to give up in terms of transportation dollars? Because every jurisdiction is fighting for it.
I embrace a truly multimodal, interconnected transportation system. And I think we need to think about it beyond just Baltimore City and Montgomery County. I think we need to be thinking about it as a regional transportation system that's statewide.
The candidates also talked at length about school construction funding, their leadership styles, and they tried to one-up one another when it came to bashing the state's incumbent Republican Governor Larry Hogan. He was invited to attend today's forum, but chose not to attend. In North Bethesda, Bruce DePoit, CTV News.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, it is a sad and unfortunate statistic. 33,000 people died from opioid overdoses last year in the U.S. Some lawmakers on Capitol Hill are demanding more be done to help those who are addicted. Senator Chris Van Hollen and other Democrats criticized the Trump administration, saying it is backing out of a promise to provide necessary funding for treatment and other services. They're calling on Republicans to work with them in reaching a budget agreement that will help fight the epidemic.
I think we also know that our nation's strength also comes from having a strong economy, a good education system, and a healthy population. And the opioid epidemic is taking its personal toll. It is also taking an incredible economic toll on our country. And we cannot be a country at full strength and full force until we address this epidemic and address it in a very serious way with resources.
Governmental funding, including health insurance, but not limited to, as Senator Hassan detailed, is of vital importance. Individuals suffering with addictions need diagnosis, counseling, and treatment. Without health insurance or other government funding, these services are unobtainable for most.
A doctor who was on hand said it will take a coordinated effort at the national, local, and county levels to solve the opiate crisis.
Open enrollment for Maryland's health exchange is extended one more week. The state's insurance marketplace provides access to education, information, and enrollment assistance. The deadline to sign up is now Friday, December 22nd, but officials say don't wait. Go online or stop by one of the enrollment centers for assistance today. For more information, log on to pgchealthconnect.org or call 301-927-4500.
Despite the cold, about a dozen people rallied in favor of net neutrality rules outside the FCC in D.C. However, the Federal Communications Commission, voted to repeal the measure. The move allows internet providers to speed up service for some apps and websites, as well as block or slow down others. Consumer groups say the decision is a major setback for them, tech companies, and Democrats who have lobbied against the repeal. Here's reaction from one of the protesters.
The FCC is a corrupt agency. It's a public agency, but it's serving the private interests, and it's made up of commissioners that come from private industry. So we shouldn't be too surprised. They need to be held responsible for their actions. What they're doing is wrong, and this is nothing new for the FCC. We work with people who have developed health effects, cancerous, neurological, reproductive health effects from wireless radiation transmitters. This is a big deal because the reason they're challenging net neutrality is to open up the internet highway for the 5G rollout and all of its commercial uses, and less for the public.
A recent survey showed 83% of Americans oppose the repeal. A judge sentences a Prince George's woman to prison for her role in the death of her 2-month-old son. 24-year-old Janice Petty was sentenced to 4 years in prison after pleading guilty to 1 count of involuntary manslaughter back in September. In 2016, Petty assisted her husband in covering up the death of their infant son because he would not stop crying. Her husband, Antoine Petty, pled guilty to first-degree child abuse back in August and is currently serving 40 years in prison.